And though some statistics show that the amount of alcohol may have gone down a little bit, nevertheless, the alcohol was stronger. That's number one. The alcohol was stronger, therefore you didn't need as much to get drunk. It was stronger because it was illegal. And second, it's hard to know exactly how many people were drinking because some people just built their own distilleries, their own still in their own backyard and never told anybody. So there was an increase overall in people getting drunk and people drinking, and crime was on the increase. So that is what I found on the internet. And are you willing to admit now that the stats do not support your position?
No.
It would take more than just statistics. It would take a black chick bringing them to you.
So in the heat of the argument last week, I did, I believe, misstate one thing. I said definitively rates of domestic violence went down under Prohibition, and I Googled that and I was unable to find any statistics either way. So I'm not sure I want to walk that one back. Other than that, the debate about the impact of Prohibition rages today. So just go to the report on, say, Google Prohibition and domestic violence, and you'll get a report from one university noting that this debate continues today. Some people argue that the amendment failed to eliminate drinking. It made drinking more popular among the young. It spawned organized crime and disrespect for the law. It encouraged solitary drinking, and it led beer drinkers to hard liquor and to cocktails. Opponents argue that alcohol consumption declined dramatically during Prohibition by 30 to 50%. Deaths from cirrhosis of the liver for men fell from 29.
Wait, I'm going to take notes because I'm going to.
You can read it all.
I'm going to refute every one of these points.
They're easily from 29.5 per 100,000 in 1911 to 10.7 per 100,000 in 1929. So was Prohibition a noble experiment or a misguided effort to use government to change morality? I don't have a position either way. I'm not pro or con Prohibition. I am pro-Prohibition on illegal drugs. The drugs such as cocaine and heroin that we've currently declared as illegal, I'm all for keeping that. I am not necessarily for bringing back Prohibition on alcohol. I don't know where government should draw the line with, say, pornography, but I do believe that a line needs to be drawn somewhere, and I am for keeping prostitution illegal in most of the United States. If, like, individual states want to say it's okay, then I'm fine with that as well. But overall, I'll just go with I think generally we can find statistics and see whether Prohibition works or doesn't work. So it's not a matter of completely eliminating, say, gambling, but by keeping most forms of gambling illegal, I think that substantially reduces the amount of gambling in the United States.
Okay, I'm going to refute all that. First of all, the cirrhosis thing was pointed out by the Cato Institute that people like yourself love to throw that around, but the Cato Institute pointed out that the cirrhosis argument is a straw man, or it's an irrelevant BS and should not be confused with drinking, because drinking only leads to a less than 1% of all cirrhosis cases. So if you have a gigantic reduction in cirrhosis, like 29% during the Prohibition times, you can't say that that's got anything to do with a decrease in drinking, because drinking can't affect cirrhosis that much. You must say that health standards in general increased and got better during that time period, and that happened to happen during the time of the Prohibition, and that is the cause of why cirrhosis deaths decreased. It's not directly related to a decrease in drinking. It's impossible. Even if there was a decrease in drinking, which there wasn't, that cannot be the factor behind cirrhosis. So what they want to do is they want you to believe that cirrhosis is always caused by drinking, and since cirrhosis went way down, therefore that shows you that drinking went way down. But that is a false statistic. So do the research. You'll see that cirrhosis and drinking are not a one-for-one linked cause and effect. There are many reasons for cirrhosis, and back in the 1910s, 1900s, before they had a lot of medicine that we have today, that is the reason behind the decrease in cirrhosis cases. That's number one. Number two is you just said some BS, and after I had already showed you that the Cato Institute showed that drinking did not go down on the decrease, you came out and said it dropped off by 50%. That is a bogus statistic, and you should stop reporting it because it's false. And even if it were to be, I don't know what they're basing it on, but even if it were to be that they said, oh, because we surveyed all of the people who were alive then and asked them if they stopped drinking, I'm going to say that a lot of people were lying and they were still drinking, they just didn't want you to know about it. What are they basing that off? Are they basing it off of how many people were arrested? Did you know that the police back east, in the states back east, stopped prosecuting and enforcing the prohibition laws because it was unenforceable? So what are you basing that on? It is a myth that crime decreased during the prohibition. It's a myth that crime decreased. Crime and drinking increased. And as far as domestic violence, it increased because the amount of drunkenness increased. When you have drunkenness, you have domestic violence. Drunkenness increased. People were now distilling their own liquor in their own house, not reporting it, getting drunk at home, like you said, drinking in private. 3,000 speakeasies where they sold illegal drugs were now replacing the 1,000 legal bars in some cities. Drinking was on the increase. Now, you said if I provided statistics that consumption increase was negligible in the prohibition, you'd change your position. And you'd say, okay, therefore I'm not against therefore I'm not a proponent of prohibition, and therefore I believe that that drugs, the war on drugs, is a failure. When you see that when the amount of use is negligible and laws don't affect anything, you would change your position. The Cato Institute stats show an increase in alcohol consumption during the Prohibition. It shows that the same effect is going on today, that drugs is out of hand. We fill up our prisons with these people, with the drug users. We're taking police out of the line of duty, protecting us from violent criminals, to process, and we fill up our courts and our police stations, and we're doing all this to get rid of the drugs, to get rid of the prostitution, and we keep doing it ad infinitum, whatever you call it, ad nauseum. It says a person is insane if they keep beating their head against the wall and they don't even stop. They just keep doing it over and over and over again. And we're doing the same thing. We just keep going after drug users. How about just stop going after drug users and not make it a crime anymore, and put the cops out there what they should be doing, and watching the dangerous murderers and these other criminals. And how do you get rid of criminals? Legalize drugs, and they stop fighting each other. Okay, so are you willing to change your position now that you've been shown that you said you would if I presented the stats?
Yeah, I said if the statistics showed that there's only a negligible increase in drug use when you legalize drugs, then I would not be opposed to legalizing drugs. There are no statistics that you presented.
I presented the Cato Institute. I put it right there.
It didn't say anything about legalizing drugs and what the effect are if you legalize cocaine.
Well, I showed you how in alcohol it's exactly that way. What is the difference between alcohol, cocaine, crystal meth? It's all the same.
Well, if that's true, how come there are societies where cocaine and
I want to get that to that. Okay. You keep talking about... I was watching the replay of our show last week, and you kept talking about foreign countries. That's irrelevant. Stop talking and looking to what other countries do, because their stats and their experiences are meaningless to us. We're Americans. We don't think nor behave like them. That's why we have America